You getting ready, Nicholas? You getting nervous? Are you starting to get nervous?
The only thing, it's the little things. I'm not nervous about the day. It's all these little things I got to deal with beforehand.
Yeah. Much like, putting an entire show on hiatus while you selfishly, get married and take a honeymoon. But with that said, I am very happy for you, Nicholas, and I can't wait for the big day. Very excited. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all ages, Dork Shared Gooniverse and Geeks Worldwide Radio proudly present to you the greatest, the absolute fucking greatest podcasting team in the world. He's the Fry Guy, Nick Fryer. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe. And together, my friends, as Jim Nance would say, hello, friends. We are the TLDR Comic Book Club podcast. Nicholas, how you doing today?
Could you imagine doing a whole show in a calm voice like that? I couldn't do that. No way.
Oh God, no. That people, we would somehow get negative subscribers.
I think you're right. I think that's a very fair call. We would lose subscribers really quickly, and I wouldn't blame anybody for that. Hey, as much as I get ASMR, like this is not the time for that kind of shit. But you know what, Joe? You always say how we're the greatest podcasting team in the world, and I don't ever say anything to back that, especially with my analysis on the show. But I gotta say that looking at, you're bringing up, I got my wedding coming up soon, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do because I am going to be in parts unknown to both of us. But we've been talking and trying to figure out a plan, and we got some fun stuff planned for you guys that will be coming out throughout the month of September, even though I'll be away and Joe will be away for a week as well. So we're going to have stuff planned for you, but it's going to be audio only. So we talk about it all the time where we have our fireside chats. Those are audio only. That still stands. Hey, who knows? You may find a fireside chat in the month of September. But the big thing is that everything that's going to be coming out is going to be, except for maybe the first week, is going to be audio only. So go find our audio channels. Make sure you subscribe. And while you're there, please leave a rating and review. 5 stars only on Apple. Otherwise, you're going to learn the real meaning of backcracker. And everywhere else, make sure it's the highest rating that you can leave. Just important notice. We'll be reminding you guys as the rest of August goes along. But it's just an important thing to know.
Not to pat ourselves on the back either, but we really busted our ass, right? Yeah. To make sure that, no days off.
Yep.
I mean, this guy wanted to take the entire fucking month off. And I said, no way. Because I'm going to tell you something, Nicholas, right now. You don't want to be fucking with Wally pipped, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want me bringing someone in here and you getting fucking replaced, right? You don't want that happening. So
that quick.
Rick Swaggins in here, and all of a sudden, we get 1,000 subscribers, and she actually. Side note, so I've tried really fucking hard to keep that kid off YouTube because it's. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. But for a child, right? I just, would rather you watch anything else. But she has discovered there's a father and son. They play board games. They, do all these things. It's a really fun thing, and she loves it. She's obsessed with it, and it's actually pretty cool. But anyways, we're playing Legos today, and she said to me, "Daddy, do you think we could make our own YouTube channel?
Oh boy.
And we can call it the Daddy-Daughter Mystery Show."
Oh wow.
And so because he's the father and son, they'll play board games, or they'll go to Target or whatever, and they'll buy one of these big huge eggs, and inside is just filled with random things, and they just sort of it's like an unboxing kind of thing, right? And the cool thing about the board games is the toy companies obviously send them games. It's a giant commercial for them, but then they donate the games, right? It's stuff like that. But she loves, and I've been doing this with her for a while, is buying her these little backpack buddies or keychain things where they're in a bag, right? But you don't know which one you're going to get, right? You collect them, right? Kind of the thing. Well, there's a name for it. It's just eluding me right now. And she loves that. She loves collect. She's gotten that from me. She loves to collect things. And so her idea was we could record ourselves with her opening something up, seeing what it is, talk, it melted my heart. I thought it was adorable. And then I thought, well, maybe she could replace Fryer. We could take this podcast to the next level, but that's for another day.
I've seen what Violet does when she has her opportunities on camera. And if we're going to be competitors right now, I'm not going to hold any punches. I know how she is. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, she's a newly minted orange belt too, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, flying up the ranks.
Oh wow, look at her! I've already
Yeah.
learned I don't want to mess with her on the soccer field, and I forget what the other game was that we played when I was there. But anyways, I digress. Let's get to our books. We've been catching up on some things. You and I, as I try and get this stupid fly that's in my house.
Jehovah Chamberlain over here getting attacked by midges. Not
Unbelievable.
midgets, midges.
We know what you said.
Don't come at me for being offensive, folks.
I think you're the only one that thought that. Anyways, catching up. So we've both been reading a lot of DC Black Label stuff of late. Why? Can't tell you. You're gonna have to subscribe to the audio channels and find out a little bit later on. But that's all I'm gonna say. Other than that, Joe, X-Men 25. When I saw Jerry Duggan at Boston Fan Expo, he was like, have you read X-Men 25 yet? Because I was talking about the Hellfire Gala. And I was like, no, I have not. But my buddy had said, yes, it's great and blah, blah, blah. So I read it, and I've never loved Kitty Pryde more.
Right? Wasn't that fucking awesome?
That in her her new look and everything. I'm here for that, man. Give me that all day. I need that action figure big time.
Oh, 100%.
Never thought I'd say
100%.
that about Kitty Pryde.
So we talked about this when X-Men 25 dropped, and you had asked, can I read this without having read the previous, 24 issues of X-Men, right?
Yeah.
And I said, well, as long as you're familiar with Krakoa and you read the Hellfire Gala, yes, I think you'll be fine. And the verdict is?
Yes, absolutely. Could not agree more. You will be fine. If you are behind, and I was quite a bit behind, you can absolutely pick up X-Men 25 as long as you read Hellfire Gala, which is brilliant. By them.
Yeah. I mean, I recommend reading,
yes.
the issues leading up to that, because you get all the stuff there with who's the fucking dipshit, the TV head bad guy there.
What's his name?
MODOK. Yeah, the stuff with MODOK and all that stuff. It's really good, but you don't have to. It's really good. So yeah, speaking of which, right, we read a ton of Black Label books. Nick, going into this month, I was currently something like 80 books off the pace.
For 1,000.
So for 1,000. So like we're still like, I didn't really count where I am. Like we're halfway through August, but at least through 7 months, I'm only 36 books off the pace now. I was like 80.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
so I
cram.
Yeah. Well, the DC stuff will help, and some manga stuff will help with that. That's another tease for September. But I also read a couple of books from Titan. Heat Seeker, a Gun Honey story, issue 2, excellent. And then Scarlet Couture, issue 1, also from Titan. It's very similar. It's kind of like a spy, sort of story. I enjoyed it. It was a little wordy, right? We've talked about this before. There's a lot of thought bubbles. There's a lot of dialogue. It was sort of a lot to take in, and especially in the beginning, the second half of the book, when it sort of let some of the art, which was very unique, which I enjoyed, and let some of the action just visually sort of take over a little bit. It got a little bit more palatable to read, so I enjoyed it. I'll read the second issue, but it was a lot to digest the first half of the book, because there was just a lot of dialogue in there, but did enjoy it.
Okay. So Scarlet Couture. Okay, and that was Titan, you said?
That was Titan, yes.
Okay, nice. All right, let's get to what's new in the books that are actually out this week. Before we get to Marvel, a couple trades that are out this week, or a few, I should say. We got Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider, Nightwing, Joker War, Wonder Woman, Revenge of the Gods, Volume 4, Specs, which I believe is just one. Yep. And then Little Monsters Volume 2, which Joe loves, seems TLDR worthy, but he's never going to freaking talk about it on the show because he doesn't want me to read Lemire.
No, I don't. It's my Lemire. I'm going to hog them all to myself.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my Blue Jays hat again, Jeff. Please come on our show.
Jeez. But there is another trade that came out this week that we'll talk about a little bit later. But we got a lot of Marvel stuff to get to. Take us through it, please.
Do we ever? Holy smokes. So X-Men Red, issue 14. Spider-Man, issue 11. Darth Vader, issue 37. Again, excellent. The Invincible Iron Man Annual, issue 1. Uncanny Avengers, issue 1. Death of the Venomverse, issue 2. I still need to read issue 1.
Dude.
I know. I read a lot of fucking Black Label this weekend, bro.
This is true.
Loki, issue 3. Alpha Fight, issue 1. Alien issue 5, What If Dark Moon Knight issue 1, X-Men Days of Future Past Doomsday issue 1, Groot issue 4, Marvel Voices X-Men issue 1, and then we got this is a rarity. We have 3 books from Marvel that we want to discuss
Yeah.
this week. One very clearly we are going to save for the end, but Nick, why don't you kick us off with Dark X-Men issue 1?
Yeah, I said it when I saw this title was announced. Like, I'm 100% in on this. So Dark X-Men. I don't know if I've ever heard of that before. Maybe before my time, if there was ever anything like this before. And then I see, okay, Havoc's in it. I'm interested. Then I see Gambit's in it. I'm checking it out, guaranteed. If Gambit's in the story, I'm interested. Then we got Azazel in the mix, and then Madeline Pryor, and oh my god, I'm in love. Like I Madeline Pryor is her. Like I am. Wow, she's a mean motherfucker, and she is all about protecting the mutants and obviously everything that's happening in Krakoa. Or again, if you're at Hellfire Gala, even if you didn't, you should know by now that a lot of the mutants were taken out. But she provides some insight in that regard on just like on the level of magnitude, and that's all in this first issue. But then it's a lot about establishing her about where she is mentally in the course of things. And she's all about her mutants right now, man. And anybody else, like, watch the fuck out. I mean, I'm totally here for that. Azazel who's like I think we've only seen him on the big screen in X-Men First Class. Awesome. Just a little bit of him, but some like his moments are good. Same thing with Gambit too, who seems to be like leading a group of X-Men characters who then join up with Madeline Pryor in the course of things. But that's the I don't want to go any further without getting too spoiler. But I loved the first issue of this one. I hesitate to call dibs just because there's so much going on. I don't know if it makes sense to talk about this as its own title on the show. At the same time, like, this is absolutely like a can't miss. If you were thinking about reading this and you're reading all the X-Men stuff, don't think twice about it. Just pick it up.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is one I definitely had circled. I wanted to read. So, it's tough when you're doing calling dibs on something like this when it's in the middle of sort of an event, even though it's not officially an event. You know what I mean? Like
no way. Feels weird.
Like, do you read this? Do you recommend? Oh, just read this by itself and recommend it, and not having not saying also, well, you've got to read the Hellfire Gala. You need to know you need to be you need to know all this shit about X-Men if you haven't. That's a ton. That's a tough.
I will just say you like to read this in this first issue. I was just like, as long you just needed to know what happened in the Hellfire Gala. So there's at least that, but from there, like this is something. Yeah, like I have to see it through to see if it's something that we can talk about as reading it on its own. That's the only thing.
Yeah, because if someone hasn't been reading X-Men at all,
if you don't know any of the Krakoa stuff or anything, no way, obviously not.
But so awesome, yeah, that looked awesome. I'll definitely give that a shot. So let's see here. Next, we will do. Let's go to Ghost Rider because there's the one obviously here we want to save for the end. So Ghost Rider issue 17. This is a small mini event that's going on, with Benjamin Percy, where he's combining Ghost Rider and Wolverine. And we discussed last week the Ghost Rider Wolverine Weapons of Vengeance Alpha, issue 1, which was excellent. And so it's continuing on. It will in this issue of Ghost Rider, then the next issue of Wolverine, right? And so this was awesome. So it's clearly taking place, it's coinciding with the events we just talked about in X-Men there, where you've got Wolverine and Ghost Rider, and they are up to they're a fucking badass team. And so with what's going on Earth, where mutants are now being, hunted down by Orcus, the X-Men and mutants in general, either on Arrakis or Mars, right? They're trying to be anywhere else but Earth, but a few of them have stayed behind, and they're being hunted down by Orcus, and Wolverine and Johnny Blaze are they're on it. They're on the case, so to speak. And this was a great issue because you get a lot. It's sort of like you get that buddy cop kind of feel to it, but it is dark. This is a really dark fucking issue, man. And there's some shit that happens. And with Ryan Otley on the art here, I'm glad that between what we got in X-Men, Ghost Rider, Wolverine, Weapons of Vengeance, like we didn't get one art style for that, and then the regular artist for for
I mean,
Ghost
Jeff
Rider, and then
Shaw,
Jeff Shaw. What did I say?
Ryan
Ryan
Otley.
Otley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at something. Yeah. Bye. Jeff Shaw. Thank you. My bad. I was thinking of something else completely. But I'm glad they're keeping Jeff on to do all these. At least that's what it seems like, because he was the artist on Ghost Rider, so it keeps it very sort of cohesive in that. And we get a little bit more backstory into Logan and Johnny Blaze, sort of how they first met. But the shit that happens in this, I can't stress it enough, man. It is dark.
Yeah.
And it's like Ghost Rider in general has been a pretty dark book. This might be one of the dark, just because of there's a couple of panels in here that happens, and like, is it like the most, I shouldn't say it's the darkest stuff that we've gotten in Ghost Rider, but it hit me a little bit more just because like whenever there's kids involved, I it always just hits me so much harder.
Makes sense.
It's like when I'm watching true crime stuff with Megan, like anytime it involves kidnapping or I can't watch it. I'm out. I just can't do it. And so like it wasn't like over the top or anything, but it's just like, ooh, this person that they they go after, and what Johnny Blaze does to this dude, I was like, yes, fucking get him, Johnny. It was excellent. So if you've been reading Wolverine, and you've been reading Ghost Rider, but didn't read, you missed last week's issue of the Weapons of Vengeance. Read it. You want to be involved in this little mini event here because it is excellent.
Yeah, and for anybody who says, "Oh, I want to like Ghost Rider, but like I don't read his stories, or like I've never read a good Ghost Rider story," if you have, then you haven't read Benjamin Percy stuff. I mean, plain and simple. Like he knows this character so well. His stuff has been can't miss. And like he said it when we first talked to him about it. It didn't like Ghost Rider seemed like, yeah, it was definitely going to get the full first arc, and then I think it was kind of up in the air about the second arc, and then that went through, and then he's still going, and now he's doing Ghost Rider and Wolverine. So I would assume people are reading it, because Marvel's not going to, even if it's a good book, I don't think Marvel is just going to keep doing it if people aren't reading it. But like, get it on it, get the trades, catch up, and get going on these single issues. And this is because this Ghost Rider, like Benjamin Percy, is like, he is absolutely crushing it with Johnny Blaze.
Yeah, because I think he said, I got the first arc's definite, and he goes, I got plans, for a second. And then he was like, we'll see where it goes from there, like you said. Issue 17, man. We're cranking. We're cranking, baby.
Some good shit. But like you said, Joe, we are saving it for last in Marvel, because this is book of the week, no?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It was a great ending. It really was.
It was. It's a bittersweet ending, and of course, that's Daredevil 14. Yep. And this is the end of Chip's run on Daredevil. I mean, this has been 4 years, right? In the making. This has been a 4-year long process, and this has been hands down, a book that I'm behind on some books. I've never behind on Daredevil. This was always top of the stack. It comes out, you read it, and it's what I was really starting to read when I got back into comics, and really introduced me to Chip Zdarsky, because I really hadn't read a lot of Chip Zdarsky. And when reading this, it was very apparent from the get-go that no one understood this character, and all the Daredevil stuff that's been out before, excellent writers, have written and told, excellent Daredevil stories, but I don't think anyone has understood the character as well as Chip has, and the way he's written them, and the way he's sort of told all of these stories from issue 1 and that arc through his initial run with Daredevil, and then when we got the big event that he did there, and then leading into this sort of second chapter, so to speak, of Daredevil, and his, leading up to this final issue here. It was a very fitting ending. There seemed to be some closure, so to speak, and just, it was in true Daredevil form. I think it was a very cathartic issue for not just Chip and Mark Cicchetto, but all the characters and everyone involved. We got some callbacks to some events that happened, in the very single digit issues of this from way back when. So this was an excellent series, an excellent issue. Again, like I get it. I get that all good things have to come to an end. But fuck, I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna miss the hell out of it.
it was such a good ending, man. I'm with you. Like, and I know you were on it way sooner than me. But man, I've absolutely like I love Daredevil, and I'd been away from the character for a while outside of the show too. And Chip just absolutely freaking killed it. I mean, from start to finish. And it's interesting too when you're talking about it. He has like a little section where he writes on his experience, and Marco does as well. But this one really stood out for me from Chip. Daredevil is the title everyone wants to write and everyone is afraid to write. It's a title that brings out the best in creators, which means the legacy inherent can feel daunting. You hope to live up to what came before, but you have to settle for just giving it your all and letting time judge the results. And like I mean, it's very clear. Like the results, like they bear themselves out. Like he did an outstanding job. And I mean, I don't know what's next. Like when we had Chip on, we talked about like what's like helping figure out what's next for the title and blah blah blah. I don't know what that is, but he left it in a spot where I'm just like, huh, okay, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
I could go down this road. And I wish you
mean,
were taking me down the road, Chip, but I could go down this road.
and I mean, when Chip took over, Daredevil had died, right? So there was this whole like sort of gray area where they had to bring him back so that Chip could take the character over and take it to levels he's taken to. But he says that, and he's currently the writer on Batman.
Yeah,
the biggest, if not the second biggest title, right? That you could be the head on, right?
mm-hmm.
I would, or third, right? I would say honestly, I would say it's Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. Like when it comes to legacy
I think
characters,
it's Batman though. Batman's
right?
yeah.
Well, we say Batman, right? And we say Batman because we enjoy him more. But Superman was the guy. He was before Batman, right? Superman is, for all
Right.
intents and purposes, he's the one that kicked it off.
He was
That's
the guy.
a huge legacy thing.
There's no question in terms of like legacy how important it is to be writing Superman or Action Comics, but Batman's the number one title. Like that's it. And
I understand.
in this moment, it is
right, but that's a different thing, right? Because we talk about, like Scott Snyder's talked about, like the imposter syndrome thing, right? And writing
yes.
on Batman, right? So I'm thinking about it as like a character from a legacy perspective, right? But it doesn't matter,
all
right?
be on the same level. Yes,
We're splitting hairs here. The thing is, like, yeah, picking nits, right? Batman, like he's writing Batman, the biggest title in comics outside of, I think, the only thing that comes close to rivaling is Spider-Man in terms of the big two, right? Marvel and DC, because Spider-Man it's got just as many books coming out each week from Marvel that Batman has from DC, but like, and Chip's written Spider-Man. He had a great run on Spider-Man, so it's very safe to say that he's being trusted with these very important characters, and he does an absolute excellent job
with good reason. That's for damn sure. Speaking of all this DC stuff and Batman and Superman, from DC this week we got Batman Superman World's Finest issue 18. Night Terrors for the second issues of the individual character titles. We have Superman, Nightwing, Wonder Woman, Catwoman, and Punchline. We have White Knight Presents Generation Joker issue 4, Tales of the Titans issue 2, Hawk Girl issue 2, The Vigil issue 2, The Penguin issue 0, Harley Quinn Black, White, and Redder issue 2, which features a little bit of work from friend of the show, Ryan Parrott. So I'll be checking that one out and picking that up this week. Then, Joe, we have we did mention that there was another trade that we wanted to touch on. It's from our friends over at AWA Studios this week.
Yeah, this is what I'm very much looking forward to, and talked about. No, because we both read this because we had Cullen on.
Yep.
So this wasn't a TLDR specific issue by one of us, but we've talked about it many times. Each week it came, or each month it came out, we talked about it, and Cullen absolutely did such an excellent job with this book. And what's great, because remember when we had him on to talk about it, this is not his typical genre. And his, by the time you're listening, to this, his latest newsletter is out. And in his newsletter, what I love about Cullen's newsletter, he's very honest in it. He gets very, very personal, and he's not afraid to sort of talk about, how he's feeling, or his thoughts or things like that. But so he talked about Red Zone, how he was a little nervous about it because he didn't know how, fans of his work who are used to more of the macabre would take to a spy thriller, right? And as he said, Nicholas, a high octane,
Mm.
spy thriller in his newsletter, and which it was because it's him and Diodato. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Diodato was the artist, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, right.
Oh
Right,
yeah.
and just had a senior moment there, and we rave about Diodato's high octane cinematic, just fucking balls to the wall art style, right? And that's what each issue of this book was. And now being able to grab it and read it all in one trade, if you haven't read it yet, right? Again, we discourage trade waiting, but if you haven't read it, the trade comes out, fucking buy it, fucking read it. You'll fly through it because it's that good, and because it's that well paced, both the writing and the art, and it's a great story. And there's more that Cullen could do with this book. Which
Yep.
I hope he does. And that was something else that he mentioned too, because I guess he's been doing more cons lately, and people have been a lot of people have been bringing him these books for him to sign and asking him, "Will you do more?" And he said, "Well, hopefully, God willing." So, Axel, if you're listening, please, tell Colin, give Colin the green light, and have him, write 1,000 more, Red Zone books, because we absolutely love him.
Yeah, and when it comes to Mike Diodato too, if you have not been exposed to his art previously, this is a great representation of like what he's
Oh,
capable of doing. Where
yeah.
he takes a comic and look again. I say it all the time. Like for me, comics are the number one medium. Like it's how I want to consume things more than anything. When I'm engaged and ready to go, but at the same time, like I really like artists take you down different roads, create different vibes and everything with their work, and that's part of why it's so amazing to me. Diodato makes it feel like you're reading a movie. It's such an interesting experience, and I don't know if you get that. I don't think you get that anywhere else. No one has the same art style as him, but I don't know if there's any other artwork out there, Joe, that I would describe as cinematic. And that's not a knock. It's just wild his style.
Yeah, because there's a grittiness to it too, which is
Yes.
great. All likenesses are simply and purely coincidental. I should
I know what
note
you're
that.
talking about.
And I
A
remember
big word.
Cullen like not wanting to
I don't
dive
know if you
into
even
that
want to
so
bring that
much,
up. Yeah, maybe not.
right?
Yeah.
But what I say is that like a fun game to play when you're reading a book that's been drawn by Mike Diodato is trying to figure out who, or like, that looks like so and so. Oh, that looks like so and so. And
Yep.
there's one character in this book that just cracked me up when I go, oh,
Yep.
that was a great choice. I didn't see that coming. It was
Oh,
excellent.
I remember who you're talking about now. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was a funny
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Okay, let's move over to Boom. So we got a few titles that we're both interested in. I didn't get to read Wild's End 3 this week yet, but that is out. We have a Rare Flavors Ash Can that's out. The Many Deaths of Layla Star issue 1 Pen and Ink, which they've done this with Something is Killing the Children previously. I don't know about any other
Issue one.
titles.
Yeah, these are the only two that I'm aware of so far.
Gotcha. Okay. Speaking of Something's Killing the Children, issue 32 of that is out this week. Then we got Dune, House of Harkonnen, issue 8. And then, Joe, I wanted to circle back on this. I was raving about Sirens of the City, issue 1 when it came out. Issue 2 is out this week. And I got to tell you, man, it is so, so good to be seeing Carrie Randolph doing artwork month to month on interiors. I missed it. I really did. The guy kicks ass. And Joanne Starr is crafting a great story too. They've created this whole like underworld in the city of like all these what are they calling each other? But it's like mystical characters. There was a word that they used for it, but I didn't jot it down. But we're getting to know the lay of the land a little bit more. There, we're introduced to some of it initially in the first issue, but then on top of it all, like Layla has the main character has ironic given the other title that we were
Does
just
she have you
mentioning.
on your knees?
Well, I don't know what
Does
you're
she?
talking about, but I'm just going to keep going forward.
Clapton, come on, son, Layla. She's got you
Uh,
on your knees, Layla.
oh, Clapton.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm begging, darling, please, Layla. Come on, come on.
Yeah,
Listen,
no, I'm
listen, listen.
Clapton's not really my thing. But anyways, so yeah, we're seeing Layla was already in kind of an odd spot and doesn't know a whole lot of what's going on, and she's got another predicament that she's trying to deal with. And where she thought she was going to get help, it's now only getting worse for her. And on top of that, all Kara Randolph is just running wild with all these new characters that he's designing and bringing to life. And the way they're using the colors in this too, we've seen blue and red were used prominently in the first issue, but not like it's everything else is black and white. And it's like a light blue kind of color. I don't think there was green in the first issue, but we see green enter the mix in this one as well. So it's really kind of fun seeing how that's kind of how that's evolved from first issue to second issue. I don't know if things are going to be primarily black and white the whole time, but it's been I have really liked it in the way they've complemented with a few colors here and there. And this will be a TLDR book. It is on that track.
Love that, Nicholas.
I'm just so annoyed I can't remember what the friggin' word was. But anyways, I digress. What do we got from Dark Horse this week?
Okay, so from Dark Horse, we have Miss Truesdale and the Fall of Hyperborea, issue 4. We have The Lonesome Hunters, The Wolf Child, issue 2. And we have Savage Squad 6, issue 2. I'll run through these next couple as well. From IDW, we have TMNT, issue 142. We have Sonic the Hedgehog, issue 63. So make sure you grab that for your nephew. We have TMNT Splintered Fate issue 1. I definitely want to, hopefully New Ray Comics has this one. I want to give this one a read. And then we have Dark Spaces, which is Snyder's sort of series. Well, I shouldn't series, but his sort of, I don't want to call it an imprint, but like
kind of what it is, but yeah, I don't know exactly.
Yeah, but Dark Spaces, the Hollywood Special issue 1. And then from Skybound, we have Void Rivals, issue 3. And then we have The Walking Dead Deluxe, issue 69. Nice.
Speaking of nice,
nice.
From Vault, we have Money Shot Comes Again, issue 3.
Nice.
Okay. And then we have a title that I'm reading, also another second issue, Queen of Swords, a barbaric story, issue 2. So this is set in the barbaric world, barbaric universe, I guess, but it's like, again, it doesn't feel, it's one of those things where it doesn't feel like it's universe. It's just this one mystical world.
Nice.
The first issue was great. Second issue, even better. And the characters at the center of this is Sarah, Ka, and Deadheart. And Deadheart we had heard about and met in a limited capacity previously in barbaric stories. Ka even more limited, but she was at the center of the barbaric one shot. I think it was I can't remember the name of that title, but anyways, but she was at the center of that. And then Sarah is connected to somebody else in the barbaric world. But I love the action. We have another talking weapon in this story, and where Axe is a little bit more like hungry for blood all the time and like ready to get, like, because he gets pretty much like drunk from it. He's ready to get after it whenever he can. The sword, which is the one that talks, is like a piece of shit, like slick back hair, it's like sloppy steaks at Trefani's, like real piece of shit. And you know what the saying is, people can change, but not fucking swords. So it's like, I'm really enjoying the different character that we have in the mix here. Even though it's like similar to the Axe, hopefully the two cross paths, as things go along, but that would probably be way down the line given the quest. But I really like these three characters, how they've been developed over the first two issues. And like, I've said it many a time, like, get in on the barbaric universe. It is like one of the best things that Vault has going, and Vault does a lot of good work.
Love that. Nice.
Oh.
All right, let's wrap this puppy up here. From Dynamite, we have Disney Villains Maleficent issue 4, Red Sonja issue 2, and Disney Williams Serena Williams Disney Villains Hades issue 1. From Mad Cave Studios, we have Monomyth issue 4 and Under the Influence issue 2,
which is the Backcracker story.
That's no. I'm a professional, Nicholas. From Millar World, we have the Magic Order 4 issue 6, and then from Image, right? If we're saving this studio for last, it means one of us, at least I'm talking about it next. Yep. But we have Something Epic issue 4. I Hate Fairyland issue 8, In Hell We Fight issue 3, Star Signs issue 4, and then a number 1 this week from Image, which we're now like Image is there with Boom and AWA, right? Number 1's got to fucking read them. We have The Cult issue 1. This is written by Jesus, senior moment. Help me out here, Nicholas.
Wow. I don't think I
Um,
want to. I know. I didn't even need to look. I can.
yeah. Kelly Thompson, thank you.
There you go. Good job. Look at you.
So I couldn't remember this from the solicit we did. I know we talked about it though, but so this is a rare instance where neither of us had called dibs from the onset. We both had read it, but what I love about this is that one of us liked it more than the other. So I'm going to call dibs on this, and it's
Yep.
not that Nicholas didn't like it. It just I think he just maybe might need another issue or two, right? But I knew, I wouldn't say right away, but I knew by the end of the issue, right? Because as we always say on the show, it did its job. And what I love about this is that it's got sort of this, you know, we're introduced to a group of characters, teenage characters. So I wouldn't quite say it's got like that Goonies feel to it because it's not that type of book, but it
No.
kind of you got the
Little bit.
Stranger Things, right? Where you've got a group. So when you ever have a group, eventually the group's going to get separated. They're going to have to overcome. So you've got that right from the get-go. But you've got a sci-fi sort of monster fantasy element to this book, which you get introduced to towards the end, which I really love. But what it really evolves around is the main character there. I knew this was going to be something a little heavy, and this was going to be a very sort of interesting character to follow because, right, a lot of what we get is through the narration of the character or the dialogue, but so much is told in these things through art, right? Because comic books is surprise, surprise, a visual medium. And
Weird.
I don't know if you picked this up, Nicholas, but it's the first thing I picked up is that all the scars on the girl's wrist.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
No.
a subtle little detail, right? But there it was, when you first introduced her, she's, and I go,
Oh
this, okay,
shit. Yeah.
right,
Damn. I got
right. There's gonna
wow.
be, there's something gonna be, dark here, right? This is
Oh,
is a
definitely.
heavy, right? So where is this story gonna go? And you don't really have any idea of where this story is gonna go until you get towards the end. And again, the art is doing a lot of the storytelling here. And it revolves around this girl, and her brother is missing. So you find that out, and then the turn that it takes from there really elevated it for me. So we've got a lot going on here. We've got a mystery. We've got all different types of characters here that are fascinating and intriguing for various different reasons. But then the world you're sort of introduced to and the way it comes about is absolutely fantastic. So for me, this pulled me right in. And I don't know if that little detail or not, like if this is like
That might
if
have
it
made a big
changes your
difference.
mind at all, right? Or like sort of changed how you viewed like how you looked at the issue, but it's too late for that now. You can just read this issue sort of over and over and over again.
Mm.
But as of now, I'm calling dibs on The Cull by Kelly Thompson because this I thought this was an excellent first issue.
I'll keep my thoughts on this quick because you highlighted it way better than I could have. I think that for me, it was like good, not great. I thought like this has potential to be a TLDR book for me, but I need to see the second issue. I definitely am gonna come back and read it. It was interesting. That detail that you caught, like I'm a little annoyed that I didn't catch that. It's right in your fucking face.
Right.
So you deserve to have this. I'm glad. And honestly, this is again one of those instances where it's like for us it's a little bit easier to say, okay, it's good. I'm going to come back as opposed to it knocked my socks off. I'm absolutely coming back because we have easier access. Who knows if we're buying these things? This is like how we're going to go about it. This is why we do the show. This
Yeah.
right here, the call is a great example of that. Let's see how things play out. I'm excited to. I really hope that I undersold it and that it ends up knocking your socks off.
Yeah, right. Because this is, there's different types of number ones, right? That
Agreed.
sort of right. And because last week from AW was the Madness, and I had talked about how, like, for me, that was my favorite, number one issue from AWA, this year, and that was a type of thing that totally played and hit me on a completely different level. This one intrigued me and pulled at me for completely different reasons because
Hmm.
one is, oh boy, yeah, I just want to see this person go on a scorched earth campaign and absolutely kill everyone, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I want to see how that unfolds. This is scratching me in that sort of that mystery itch, like
Yeah.
where's so like I love that because you can have these books that pull you in for many different reasons, and that is to me the epitome of great indie comic book
Yeah.
storytelling, right
Yeah.
there.
And there's no question too when it comes to the call, like as much as again as I wasn't as high on you about it, like it definitely did its job. Where I was like, oh, I do want to see what goes on in this next issue because I was like the way things start, you expect one thing, then we take a slightly different journey, and then by the end of it, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like it all makes sense, but it's like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like it makes sense from where we were early on in this. Anyways, let's get to the book that you had planned to talk about today. As we mentioned, it's an all image episode, everybody.
Yep. So this week I am doing Local Man from Image Comics, written and drawn by both Tim Seeley and Tony Fleeks. And if I mispronounced your name, Tony, I apologize greatly. Colorist on this is Brad Simpson and Felipe Sobriero. And I couldn't find the letter on this, so I'm not ignoring the letter. I just couldn't find
Okay.
who that person was. But the synopsis: once the star recruit of the media sensation super teen third gen, Jack Xavier had it all, but when controversy sends Cross Jack crawling back to his mom and dad's basement in the Midwest, Jack struggles to fit into a world he left far behind, and then the bodies start piling up.
Oh,
Uh, yeah. So
wow.
they got a lot planned for this because I believe this has been very, very successful for Image and very, very successful for Tim and Tony, Brad and Felipe. They did an excellent job on this. And this was again another instance. I read the first issue and I go, "Yep, did we just become best friends?"
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, this was
this and World Tree are two books right now where and I don't this does not happen to me often where you call dibs and I'm like really pissed that I'm not reading this right now. Like usually I'm like I want to read it and I can't wait for you to talk about it like the Lemire stuff, but like these it's like I'm borderline breaking out in hives over these two books.
and I don't know if I read this book week one either. I can't remember. I might have like said I didn't get
I
to it
don't
and then I went
know.
back to it. Anyways, doesn't matter. It's fucking excellent. So the first arc, 6 issues. There's going to be, I believe, dropping it in 2 weeks at the end of the month. Local Man Gold. So they've got a lot planned for this, right?
Mm,
Spin-offs, prequels, all that kind of stuff. So 6 issues. And so what I love about it is so like Tony and Tim, they both tackle the art, but they sort of and it's the same. So it's like what we have is these sort of the team combo. So the story primarily takes place, or it all takes place in the same area, but when it comes to like the town of Farmington, the art is done by Tony and Brad. Whereas the third gen, which is like the superhero team, so whenever you see those characters, that art is done by Tim and Felipe. Um, so it's a really cool dynamic, and it's a really cool, concept that these, that Tim and Tony have created. And I love that they kind of have like their tag team. Like, okay, you're with me, bro. We're gonna draw this stuff. You're with him. You guys are gonna draw that. And we talk about this all the time. Like when you have, multiple writers on the same story, the most important thing that you want is that cohesiveness of voice, right? Because there's been times, we've read books and you can tell, oh, the tone changes or something changes, and it just seems you can tell it doesn't have that cohesiveness to it, right? But with this, with Jenny Zero, with the schlub, even though you get that cohesiveness, that same voice. You can't
yes.
tell who's writing what. It's just all one voice, and it fits perfectly, and it's absolutely fantastic. So what we're dealing with here, and again, this is one of the things. we always talk about why we love indie comics so much is we love flawed characters, right? Because you want to see them overcome whatever it is that's keeping them down, whether they have to overcome the odds stacked against them, or in this case you just gotta Crossjack, right, has to overcome all the mistakes that he constantly puts himself into, right? I wouldn't necessarily call him a piece of shit, but he's trying to make up for the piece of shit that he was.
People can
Uh,
change.
People can change. Well, I'll tell you who doesn't. His fucking parents. I'll get to them in a moment.
Oh
His
boy.
parents fucking stink.
Oh man.
They're like just the fucking worst. But he's disgraced from this superhero team that he's a part of. He goes back home, and nobody fucking likes him. Nobody, because when you read the first issue, it's like, what the hell did he do? Why does everyone hate him so much? Is it simply because he's a piece of shit, or is it something that he did specifically? And as you read, the story, it all just sort of like you learn more about Crossjack and his backstory, and how he became a superhero and all that. But like, yeah, no one likes his parents. Don't even fucking like him. But in
Wow.
his defense, they stink. If I was him, I'd be like, fuck you guys. I'm gonna go somewhere else, because they just constantly berate him, and you read that first issue and you go, fuck man, now I'm kind of feeling bad for the guy, and you don't even know what he did yet. He could have done something that was like fucking atrocious, but the way that his parents treat him, you're like, fuck man, god
Fuck
damn,
you.
fuck you. You start rooting for him, right?
Just
And
kidding. I still hate you.
he just wants to fit back in, sort of reassimilate, and kind of pick his life back up again. But everywhere he goes, just a shitstorm always fucking follows him. And so he's back home. His parents are giving him shit. He's like, fuck this, I need a drink. So he goes to the bar, right? And of course nobody at the fucking bar wants anything to do with him. They're all trying to fucking avoid him. And all of a sudden you see this dude that sort of looks like the Rhino, shows up, and it's one of his old arch enemies. His name is Hodog, and they all of a sudden they start fucking going at it. Somehow it's Crossjack's fault. They get fucking booted from the bar. The cops, like whatever. Everyone's fucking shitting on him when it was very clearly the other dude fucking started it. But here they are. They're in a very public setting, and he gets, not only does he get kicked out of the bar and everyone's fucking him, but his old superhero team shows up and says, dude, we told you, you're out of the fucking, you can't use your superpowers anymore. So he's been like placed on like house arrest, so to speak. They're like, you used a shield. He goes, I didn't use a fucking shield. I used a fucking trash can lid to defend myself. And so like all these little things are starting to come together. It's like, okay, he's been exiled. He can't even use his superpowers for any such manner whatsoever. And then the next day, wakes up, the cops are knocking on his door. The bad guy that he got into a beef with, he's dead. Boy, is he dead. And Crossjack is the prime suspect in this. And so what we get is now we get a story of a disgraced superhero just trying to fit back into his hometown where nobody fucking likes him. And as soon as he comes home, one of his arch enemies is found dead. And the bodies that start piling up in this dude's wake, each issue, right? It just gets boom, boom, boom. And so now he's trying to take matters in his own hands. He has to, he takes it upon himself. He's like, well, I got to clear my name. But as the bodies start piling up, he's like, I got to figure out what's going on. Something's not right here. Something stinks. And so he becomes the local man because he can't use his superpowers. He can't be Crossjack and do all this stuff. And so when the papers start writing up about, local man saves, priest from getting hit by a car, like that's like where the title come from. And I thought that was just so creative and really fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, just like to come up with a series, and that's how you kind of get the title of it. So like the storytelling
That's
that you get
amazing.
from Tim and Tony, it's classic comic book superhero stuff, right? And I love, the art, from everyone kind of gives you that sort of old school early mid 90s image vibe to it,
Mm.
you know, which is really cool. And like I said, like just everything about this, all the elements, between the storytelling and the art, just they mesh so well together. And you've got two different artists, two different writers, all coming together, creating this it all just feels like one writer, one artist doing the whole thing. And that in and of itself, I think, is a master achievement, because at no point ever does the writing feel off, does the art feel off, does the pacing ever feel off. And what else you get too is that you get this really great story with a ton of twists and turns, and the fucking reveal that you get at the end of this arc is absolutely like it's so fucking good. And I'm trying not to spoil anything,
Good.
right?
I could,
But like
that was close.
it was close. It's just excellent, and the mysteries about everything about it is fantastic. So, um, prior to this, or prior to getting back into comics, right? I really, unfamiliar with both Tim's and Tony's work. But I read Stray Dogs by Tony Fleeks, which was excellent. A book I didn't think I was going to love because it
Right.
involved like talking animals. But it was this really sort of great horror story, which was great. And then I've been reading West of Sundown, or I read West of Sundown, written by Tim Seeley. And so now, like, I've been introduced to those two. I want to read more from them because they're excellent writers, and they make for a great, team. So the characters that you get, I'm only gonna go over a couple again because I don't want to, I guess, spoil anything or get too far into the weeds. But you have Crossjack, who is your main character, and as I said, everyone fucking hates him, and he's just trying to live his friggin' life. But as he gets pulled into this mystery, and again, the twists and the turns that happen, and the shit that he uncovers, it's excellent. It's excellent, excellent, excellent. This is just great comic book superhero, storytelling. And by the time he figure, and that was the other thing I wanted to mention too, is that you don't really know who the culprit is again until like the end. Really, you're like,
Mm.
what the fuck? Holy shit! Right? I didn't see that coming, because you get a couple of different red herrings, and again, you're going this way, you're kind of going that way, but when it all comes together, man, it is absolutely excellent. And his powers, he's like just kind of like really good at shit. Like he's like, think about like, he wasn't allowed to play sports because like he was just so fast, and his everything about him, it's
There's
like,
like Cap, kind of.
yeah, exactly. But there's a little bit more there, but kind of like that. That's a good comparison. Um, but he's a character, like I said, like he's a piece of shit. You're trying to figure out why he's a piece of shit. But by the end of the first issue, you just want nothing more for this guy to succeed.
Mm.
So he's a great character. Hodog, as I mentioned, he's Crossjack's old nemesis. And what you find out about him, especially throughout the first issue and towards the end of the first issue, there is more than meets the eye here, because what happened with this guy was he was a real bad guy. And it's funny, one of the things they talked about is you find out that he picked Crossjack to be his enemy because he knew Crossjack didn't really take this shit too seriously, so he knew they could have battles, but like at the end of the day was like, this is not going to be like a Batman Joker kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was a cool thing. But there's something you find out about Hodog and his history, and what he was trying to do, when he entered the bar that night. Excellent stuff. Like, it really is very intriguing, and that alone pulls you in. And then two other characters that you're introduced to in the beginning that sort of play significant roles. They're both just pedestrian human beings, nothing super about them. You have Igna Buckholz, who is Crossjack's old high school flame, and is probably the only person in town that actually can kind of tolerate him and kind of welcomes him back. And then her husband, who happens to be the chief of police. And he's in charge of solving the crimes of all the dead, people that seem to be left in Crossjack's wake, and he's constantly up Crossjack's ass. And his story throughout all this is excellent too. So, um, such a good book, man. Like, again,
That sounds
six
great.
issues. 6 issues. You're gonna read. You're gonna fly through them, and you're gonna want more ASAP. It's just I can't state enough just how well all four of the creators of this book worked so well together to create
So,
such a great story.
one note: the trade is coming out on September 27th. It looks like, according to League of Comic Geeks, but it's only 1 through 5. You're not getting the 6th issue; is not in there.
Oh, did I
So
fuck up? Is it 5 issues and not 6?
I don't know. You can check that out. But I was curious. I should say I was getting thrown off by some of these names because you got Hodog. I keep thinking you're saying like you're Hodor, and then I hear Buckholz, and I'm like, I have not heard that name in ages, and you know who I think of first when I hear that name. So that threw me off a little bit. But yeah, when it comes to the series though, like this again, like I've been missing out on this. I've known I've been missing out on this, and your explanation of it only justifies like my anxiousness over getting a chance to read this. So thank you.
So my bad. It is 5 issues.
Okay.
Issue 6, it's listed on here. So when I went to League of Comic Geeks, I just pulled up the series. Issue 6 comes out October 18th. So it is 5 issues. That's my bad.
Okay, so get the trade in a month. You let them know. I'm sure the FOC's not here yet, but coming up close. Get that, and then get going and read it month to month starting with issue 6. Boom.
Yeah.
That's
Boom.
called you're welcome. All right. So let's see. I don't want to. I mean, okay. It feels like this has show potential, but it feels like it's way too early to make that call given the potential magnitude of Local Man.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it would make a great movie, to be honest with you,
Mm.
right? Because I mean, the first arc is like the it's tough because like
Yeah.
when you think a TV show, you think in multiple seasons, but now more shows are only going maybe 2-3 seasons top. So like, yeah, could you pull something like this off? But I don't know how you would make this particular 5 issue story episodic because this really feels like the events that take place
Okay.
in these first 5 issues. You know, would it may at least be part one? Of a trilogy or something like that. Like you maybe could do something like that, but it felt more cinematic to me than it did sort of episodic.
Okay. I can see it going either way. I think we just need to let it bear it out stuff out a little bit longer. As for me, again, I am talking about an Image book as well. I am talking about The Dark Room, which is written by Jerry Duggan and drawn by Scott Buoncristiano. I believe I said that right, Scott. Let's see. Colors by Tamara Bonvillain, of who, of course, we've talked about her many a time. And then letters by Joe Sabino, a name we're also familiar with. This is actually an original graphic novel from Image Comics. And much like Joe's book, mine is the second. So the second arc of yours is starting this fall. The second volume of The Dark Room is coming out this fall. But this first volume, it consists of a prologue and 3 chapters. So they're a little bit longer each, but at the same time, this is like 120 pages in this book. And it's probably like 100 pages of actual story. Just because you get like character designs and extra stuff in the back and some stuff in the front too. But the second volume is going to be out on Halloween. And the synopsis for The Dark Room: the hunt for a camera containing an undeveloped photo of the face of true evil threatens to wipe out New York City one chilly autumn evening. Duenya Mahoney, excuse me. I got I struggle with the last name, and that first name I've never seen in my life. Duenya Mahoney is the curator of a private collection of extremely dangerous cursed objects in her nights about to go to hell. Now, one interesting thing to know about Jerry Duggan in all this too is this is about a camera in this specific story. That's like a very personal thing for him. He has like on his website, he has like a photo book that you can purchase, and he takes a lot of pictures at cons, in different things like that. I actually got to look at it at Boston Fan Expo just to get a little bit of a taste. There's like a bunch of different stars that are featured in it that he's photographed over his time at cons, among other things. So there's like a personal thing for him, very like visibly personal thing for him in this. And then at the start of it, I mentioned there's a prologue, and that is where we meet Ernest M. Rutherford, and this is back like around the Great Depression, a little bit before, a little bit after, in that range. And he's a semi-retired photographer who was actually living on the Cape when we meet him in this story, and he was running into a bizarre problem with his pictures, and they're all coming out corrupted. And when you think about like, oh, corrupted file, that just means like, yeah, maybe there's like a virus on it, or maybe there's something that like it can't be opened. Something happened like that. You're not going to run into that issue with like, pictures back in the day. Corrupted photograph. He's running into a different issue, and I'll just say he did not handle it all too well. Then we fast forward to, I believe, like our time essentially, and that's where we meet Dunya Mahoney, who is the main character. And as I mentioned, she is a curator. She's like freelance off the books. I kind of get like a Indiana Jones vibe from this story, but like I know he does like occult type stuff, but this is like underworld occult type stuff. Where his is like, I don't know if this stuff kind of exists, or I don't believe in it. It's definitely a thing, and people like revere it in a certain way, blah blah blah. But this is like, no, this shit's real, no question about it. And like where everybody knows about like this stuff on the surface, I get that really dark, crazy stuff that people like really, really want. I'm good at that. And there's a special ability that Duenya has that you learn about very, very quickly. This is in the first issue, but I don't want to. I don't know. I feel like I don't want to pull that because there's like it's a surprise. Like I can talk around that, but she has a special ability that you learn about pretty quickly. And when you learn about that, she's in the middle of a conversation with a person who, throughout the majority of the story, doesn't have a name. Pretty much just the buyer or her employer, however you want to look at it. And we learned that like that pretty quickly. There's a lot going on with this individual. But again, trying to keep some secrets close to the vest. You learn all of that pretty quickly, and that conversation that those two have on top of the prologue will be enough that when you pick up this book, it'll suck you in, because you get an idea of what Duenya's like, you get an idea of what her occupation is, what is at stake here, and then everything kind of blows up more from there. We meet her friend Walt, who's this, I guess you call him a ghoulish type character. He's like a holographic skeleton, kind of like he not in the sense of like he doesn't exist there. Like he's very shiny. So that's his deal, and I think he lives with Duenya. Like he's there like hidden while the buyer's there. Then he shows up. So like they have a very close relationship. I just don't know what exactly it is. And then we have Aaron, whose relationship I do know. That is her ex-boyfriend, who, again, part of the whole underworld scene for different reasons. Actually, no, I think this is not really no, this isn't a spoiler thing to say. He is a werewolf. And then you learn more about, and actually, speaking of that, there's a thing that, so when he transforms into a werewolf in this story at one point, what Jerry does while we see, Steve kind of going through Scott going through the whole transformation with, with Aaron, we see Jerry where he's explaining what it feels like to turn into a werewolf. And it's funny because we've seen it before where it's like these characters, like not just in this story, like just in general. I mean, we've seen it where like werewolves, their bodies get all contorted. They grow into these big monsters, and it looks like a very uncomfortable process. But then you wonder like, oh, you know what? They're werewolves. They're super powered. Maybe they'd be fine, blah, blah, blah. And the way that Jerry describes it, and again, Scott's art is perfect for it, but the way Jerry describes it, it's like, this makes perfect sense. This sounds fucking awful, but it sounds absolutely spot on as well, based on what I'm seeing in front of me and what we know about werewolves. So it's like kind of one of those things I never knew, one of those descriptions I never knew that I needed. It was very well done. And then there's some other major like important players that get thrown in the mix, but there's like one big one that I can't necessarily call out this individual just because I don't like if I feel like it'd be a little bit spoilery in a way, but that's a character we could end up seeing more of in this the second volume of the Dark Room. And speaking of the title, you think it's one what the meaning behind that is one thing, and then it's something completely different. Not going to tell you what it is, but it's so much fucking better than what I thought it was. It's really, really fucking cool. And like when I saw some of the like I got this at Fan Expo when I met Jerry and Scott, and as I looked at more stuff surrounding the dark room afterwards, just to get a better idea of what's going on in this story, I saw that like it said here, though the creators may come back to this more and more over the years. This could have ended at volume one and like, okay, they left it fine. I would have wanted more, but I'm looking at this and what they've done here, what they've created. It's like this, they could go continue forward on with Doinia if they want to, and they can go in the other direction and go way back for shortly like recent history or way back if they want to, and you'll understand why it's the case when you read this. Other than that, I speaking of Scott too, I feel like I've seen his work before, but I couldn't tell you necessarily where that is. But his style is interesting in that this is obviously a horror setting because we're talking about ghouls and monsters and all that kind of stuff. But it's also comedy. Like Walt is a funny character. Duane's got a dry sense of humor to her. But his style is like and of course you have Tamara Bonvillain, who's one of the best colorists in the business. But like Scott's style is perfect for that blend of horror and comedy. And like, I know I'm bringing up the comedy, but like, there's some shit that you'll see early on in the story when you read the show and you're like, fuck. Like, by and large, I don't think this is a thing you have to read in the day, but there are a few images here and there where it's like, you kind of have to. No, I'm taking that into consideration. I know.
Yeah.
But there's
when you say dark room, is it a photographer's dark room where they're developing pictures? Or is that what you were thinking? And then
I will say that is what I was thinking.
Okay.
That's all I will say. You won't guess what I thought what it actually is.
Okay, perfect.
But yeah, there's and then the twist at the end too. Like in the course of all this, like again, it's 3 chapters. We get to the end, and you kind of like have a thing that you're expecting. You know what's going to happen, and it's like, and it would have totally made sense. It's like, okay, but how are they going? It's all about how they're going to get out of it. Nope. Not what you expected at the end. Not at all. It was really, really fucking cool. And that right there, there's so much that gives me confidence in the Dark Room moving forward as a title. But that ending was just like, wow, like that was nice. That was really nice, neat, and tidy, and just totally taking me down a road and enjoying it the whole way. And then it's like, yeah, no, we're just going to do this at the end here. That, and then also, again, like I talked about Joinia's occupation, like all of this, I like the Dark Room, and I love that it's just like it's just an OGN. So we're gonna get it all at once, all in bulk. Jerry Duggan, he can absolutely do that kind of shit if he wants to. I'm here for it. Keep doing it. And give the Dark Room a check.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Movie, I'm assuming.
I think this is movie potential, yeah. But Joe, this absolutely could be built out to be a show because I'm telling you, man, like you could go and start with Dunya here. And then you could do, I like a couple seasons with her. And then if you wanted to just wrap it, but then like, you know what, then we could go farther back in time and maybe repurpose the title and do some different shit. Like if Jerry wanted to do that or whatever, there's a lot of potential. This is like this, they got something really special here. But I think it would be really well suited as a movie based on just this one volume. Yes.
Love that. Love that.
All right. On that note, that is it for us this week. Again, make sure you subscribe to our audio channels because you never know what's going to pop up. And leave a 5-star rating review on Apple and wherever else you listen to us. Please leave the highest rating and review possible. Until next week, Joe, your mic is off still. Stay sexy.
You know it. Yeah, you know what's driving me nuts, Nicholas? Your green screen's been off this whole fucking time. It's driving me bananas.